Welcome all. Today on the program, Stefanie Veraghtert. She is an alumni student of the social work program at Campus Heel, but has been a passionate social entrepreneur for several years now. In the meantime, she has become a keynote speaker in Belgium, national, but also international. But why are we doing this interview today? I am Hanne from IceCube, and ICE stands for Innovation, Creativity and Entrepreneurship. And we have a clear focus on social impact and sustainability. Why? We believe that these entrepreneurial skills encourage you to have a great impact on the world you live in. So, to trigger and encourage you in social entrepreneurship, we have Stefanie today in our studio. Welcome, Stefanie. I've already introduced you briefly, but I think I have to give you the opportunity to describe yourself. So, who are you and what do you do?
Okay, thank you for introducing me so nicely. I will add some things. I'm Stefanie, I'm 33 years old. I'm from a very small village in the Kempen, but I have a very big global mindset. So think local, act global, or act global, think local. I'm an alumni student from here. I studied social work, my bachelor's. After I studied a master European Comparative Social Studies and then international politics. And my main dream in life was to mean something for the world on the biggest level possible. So I started working for the United Nations as a youth policy specialist, and then something happened in my life. I will talk a bit more about it later. Something life-threatening that I transformed to something life-changing.
Okay.
And that's the moment where I decided to become a social entrepreneur. I founded my own business. I'm doing this for the last 5 years. It has to do with coffee. This is a small hint.
I will taste it.
And besides being a social entrepreneur, I started giving keynotes, workshops, and I'm talking a lot about social entrepreneurship because it's not a recently new topic, but it's a topic with a lot of context, and it's very important to educate about it and to have a good framework so that we can inspire other young pioneers to become social entrepreneurs.
Okay, nice. And when we go deeper on it, do you remember the moment when you got the idea for becoming a social entrepreneur? And because I'm curious, what was the magic moment for you?
That's a very good question, actually, and I remember this moment as if it was yesterday. It was really the magical eureka moment where, yes, really. And it's funny, yes. It really went like that. Of course, something went before that moment. I would like to share it as well because it's very important to understand my passion to become a social entrepreneur. So in 2013, when I was 26, I was on top of the mountain. I was making a career. I was living the dream life on all aspects.
At the UN?
At the UN, yes. I was working for UNESCO, an agency of the United Nations in Paris, and I really thought I made it. After all of those years in the schools,
Thomas More
was part of the journey, yes. I was so happy to finally become an adult with a paycheck, and the future was smiling at me. But the 1st of July 2013, I was diagnosed with cervical cancer. Not just any cervical cancer, stadium 4B, the final stadium. There isn't any other stadium after that. And I was given a life chance of 5 to 10%. So it changed my life totally. Luckily, I live in Belgium. I had the best healthcare. I had a very hard treatment. It took a long time to recover, but when I was finally recovered, I was ready to reintegrate in society.
And make the change.
And make the change. But first, I needed to reintegrate myself in an inclusive society because I was a changed person. I was Stefanie that had fewer opportunities because of the cancer diagnosis, because it changes you emotionally, physically. And as a social worker, I always thought we had such a great welfare and well-being system, and it would be easy peasy for me to get back on track, and that was not the case. So I struggled a lot. with discrimination, with labeling. Suddenly I became a patient, a victim, somebody who didn't had any value anymore. I was just a cost for our society. I didn't got any work opportunities because, of course, I needed to go to the hospital a lot. I had bad days, like I don't need to explain
you
it.
don't have to explain
exactly.
it, yeah.
But I still wanted to matter. And all that our society was saying to me, you don't matter no more. And I got so frustrated. And for 1 year I was searching for opportunities. I was shouting, like, with my experience as a social worker, I knew all of the institutions that could help me. And they all said, well, we don't have any budget for you because your label as a young cancer patient is not connected with grants. So we cannot help you. You're an exceptional case. This is what they all told me. And the magical moment happened here, where I decided one morning to not be part of the problem anymore, but to become part of the solution. Because after 1 year searching for solutions, for opportunities for me, realizing there weren't any, I said, well, apparently I have to do it myself. And I remembered working with young people from third world countries that had nothing, not a great welfare system, not a social security system, and with just a little bit they were building their own social enterprises. I give you a concrete example. There was a group of young people, they built an engine that could run on urine, take water from the water
installation?
No, just basic, the water put in
yeah.
Dutch. A little bit Dutch for the people. But they were taking water from under the ground, and they could give the whole community water and make money from it. So I was thinking, okay, Stefanie, everything is taken away from you. You have no money, you have no chances, no job, no career, nothing. But you have your brain, you have your competences. You better start thinking about the solution yourself. What I needed was economic and social chances to reintegrate, meaning that I needed to have a community that would empower me. I needed to have peers to teach me. Plus, I needed to have a job because we live in a capitalistic system. I need money to buy food, to pay my health bills, and so on. So I came up with the idea, I need a coffee bar. I need to create a spot where I can welcome my community, I can sell products, make money, and just do it myself. Because if we need to wait for the government or our politicians, with all respect for their hard work, we can wait a very long time. And that's the moment where I woke up and I said, it's time to make a change and to be the change you want to see in the world. And that was really a magical moment because I went from being a passive patient to an active Stefanie that wanted to take ownership about my own life and was no longer waiting until somebody would do it for me. That's a very important
and that was the moment you decided to become a social entrepreneur and started the Big C.
Yes. Okay. And it will become also clear why I chose to become an entrepreneur, because that's a very important word. Entrepreneur means making your own money, driving your own business. Solution-based.
Making the change.
Exactly. And since I went on a search for 1 year and everybody said, well, we don't have money to help you. That's when I made the click, okay, let's generate money then. Because we have a free market, everybody can make money at the end of the day.
So, and when you started, so to make your social enterprise a reality, can you tell us what specific skills or competences you need to have?
Then we need a full week to talk, because that has been a rough journey.
Roll.
It has been a rough journey, I'm not gonna lie, because I was a policy maker, I was a social worker, policy maker, I was a speaker or a representative from a country, because I represented Belgium a lot on international level. So I had no knowledge of entrepreneurship, of economic systems. I had a great idea. In theory, it was a perfect story. Opening a coffee corner, welcoming your community, the coffee would sell automatic, money would come, and with the profit, I could invest in post-cancer programs, for example. But of course, I didn't know about the system to become an entrepreneur in Belgium, where you need to pay a lot of taxes, you need to pay a lot of insurance, you need to invest. Before starting your enterprise, you need to have a lot of money on your bank. You need to have a logo, a brand, a website, you need to have marketing. I was lost. Luckily, there were some platforms in Belgium that started to coach social entrepreneurs in the beginning of their ideas. So they went from idea to real business plan. So I was coached doing that, but it was a long process. First of all, it was a process of really bringing my idea into a realistic plan, operational plan. For example, if you want to open a coffee corner, you need to have knowledge of how to make coffee. You need to be a barista.
A barista, yes.
So I was teaching myself how to become a barista. Then I wanted my own coffee brand, so I needed to explore the coffee world, from green bean to import-export to roasting to packaging
to branding,
to sell it on a web shop. Like that's not easy for all of those who just want to start a web shop and think they're gonna get rich. Come talk with us. So it was a long process, but I enjoyed it because I learned a lot. It really empowered me in the ownership, let's say. Also, we live in an era where you can find a lot of information online, so you can truly educate yourself.
But you have to be selective, I guess.
Yes, because important is also to surround you with a good network of other entrepreneurs who can teach you a little bit, because it's a hard world. And the most difficult part for me was the idea to business plan was okay, to get everything ready. It was not so hard, but to really...
So from idea to concept was okay?
Yes, but when it gets serious, and if you become an entrepreneur, it also means you need to take financial risks.
Yes.
And they don't tell you that at the beginning. So they make it sound like it's the ideal dream, you get to live your own life and it's great, you're your own boss. But nobody tells you. You don't have a 9 to 5 anymore, but you have like a 5 in the morning until 12 in the night. But anyway, it's all worth it at the end.
So the execution is hard.
It's hard, and then to jump, to really put it into practice.
Yeah.
Because you truly jump in the unknown, because that's entrepreneurship. You need to go trial and error to see whether your market idea or your business idea is going to be successful. And nobody built success over one night, not even Steve Jobs from Apple, not even Starbucks. Like, everybody had more than 200 trials and errors, and that was the hardest part, to continue.
So the failing forward is an important competence.
Exactly,
you mentioned
exactly. Now. And when I started to put things in practice, I expected a lot of people to help me, but then they said, you're on your own. You want to become an entrepreneur, so it's your risk you're taking. We're out of here. So it's a lonely journey as well, and it's a journey where you have a lot of pressure, financial pressure, but also emotional, because you don't want to fail. I guess in Belgium we have the culture, when you fail, you're a loser. In America you have the culture, when you fail, you're a winner, because you dare to fail. So we need to change the culture, mindset about that. So there was a lot of pressure on me. And
so an entrepreneur has to be a loser, has to embrace.
Has to be ready to lose to win again.
Okay,
that's better said.
The failing forward stuff.
Exactly, because losing is learning.
Yeah.
And people don't get that. Like, losing is learning, and a good entrepreneur has a lot of resilience to bounce back, because from the losing you learn and you do better. And if you look at my journey, I started very small and I was building until COVID came. But COVID made me lose, but it's gonna make me build even bigger within the next months. So losing is learning and winning.
Yeah.
As long as you don't give up. Of course, I have this escape plan or whatever. I always tell other starting entrepreneurs to keep a financial and emotional buffer. And buffer means you have some space. So when you lose, you don't lose it all. You know, you fall into your buffer zone, and from there you can bounce
rebuild,
back up. But that's a bit more technical financially.
Yeah.
But I guess it was a lonely journey, not an easy one. I learned a lot. I learned much more than I learned in school. Let me tell you that.
Ice Cube didn't exist
at
that moment.
Unfortunately, yes. So they're improving. See, they're also learning at school.
Yes, indeed. We have to reinvent ourselves
constantly.
Constantly.
You're also a small entrepreneurship.
Yes,
basically.
indeed. We are the startup in our school.
So you should know as well that putting things into practice, that's the real deal.
Yeah.
And that's where you make a difference. That's where you become successful. or you give up easily. And they always tell in the marketing world, in the sales world, they say, well, you need to do something 7 times and only the 8th time it will become successful.
Yes.
And I can tell you that's true.
Yeah, that's why our quote is get shit done to create impact.
Yes,
so
I love the quote.
Thank you. But what results of your enterprise are you especially proud of? Because how long do you exist now? 5, 6 years? Maybe longer?
The idea started in 2016. My mentality as a social entrepreneur is a bit go with the flow. So what I did in the last years is I tried a lot of proof of concepts. I had a business plan, I had an idea, but there was a lot of external factors that boycotted that idea. I'll give you an example. My idea was to sell my coffee to all the university hospitals that drink liters of coffee a day. So I thought if they buy my coffee, I'm good. I have my profit to do my mental well-being programs, let's say, or my skill building among my community, so I could provide opportunities economic and socially. But I got a very cold shower with a lot of ice cubes on me from the CEOs of the hospitals. Because they kind of like laughed at me like, what is this young girl, naive girl coming to pitch? Like they said, good idea, but you can do it as a volunteer under a support group for cancer patients. So I got a lot of no's and I got a lot of discouragement, again, because we are scared of innovation and change. And it's a hard world, you know. It's also a man-dominated world, by the way.
Does that mean that people see social entrepreneurship a lot like charity? Because you say volunteer.
Yes, yes. That is one of my biggest frustrations from the last years, because I come from the left part of the spectrum, let's say, charities, NGOs, fully funded organizations, and I was always working with money from countries or donors, non-governmental, totally not in the private sector, in the corporate sector, and it's a very difficult marriage, because in the left spectrum, the charities, they assume you do everything voluntary. I think it still comes from our religious history, where the strong should help the weak, the people with no children should help the ones with children, the young should help the old. Like we're expected to help people with challenges in society.
And maybe also in our heads, like social and commercial, those two are like, how can we bring them together? Yes.
Exactly. So non-profit and profit are far away. It's like water and fire or water and oil. It's not possible to blend. But in the blending is the impact revolution.
Is the key.
There's the key, because what we have seen is that the NGO sector that is funded, they never really thought about the euro, what they should do with it. Like if you give an NGO, and I don't want to offend anybody, but I was working in NGOs a lot. There was a lot of mismanagement. They have this, they have another business culture, let's say, an NGO mindset. When you give an entrepreneur a euro, before the euro hits the table, he's already thinking how to make 10 euro from it, and he's much more aware of the impact that he or she has. And what you saw in the last years is that governments and donors are decreasing their funds that they're giving to the NGOs because they're losing credibility, trust. There were some scandals. Our money is also finished. Our governments made a lot of debt, so yeah, they need to deal with it. So you see that the NGO sector is losing a lot of money, so their sustainability is not guaranteed. When you go to the other side with the business, pure corporate business, they're making a lot of money. So the gap between the both is getting huge. For me, when I was inspired that you can make money, everybody can make money. Like you don't need to have a business degree to do it. And everybody can find a solution to a problem. When you blend it, you have the best of both worlds. But in the perception of our mind, people think that when you are doing something for a good cause, you try to help people, it should come from a voluntary movement, while if you integrate it in your business, you know, when good people make good money, they do good things. And that's a bit what we need to go through, because what's happening now is the corporates are doing very well. They're thriving, they're making a lot of profit and they're growing, and our capitalistic system is going in the height, but it's gonna collapse because we created so many societal problems. So the gap between poor and rich literally is also getting bigger, and the government is not keeping up with all those problems. So who's gonna bring the solutions? We, social entrepreneurs.
Yeah. So what I now hear is, like, you have to, if you want to have a social impact, you have to think business-wise, and you have to make an integrated model to create that social impact.
Yes.
Am I right?
Yes, and that is one of my learning lessons. I was focusing on the human impact in the beginning of the years, because I was driven by that. That was a change that I wanted to see. I wasn't really focusing on the profit. Although I needed profit, I needed money to maintain. So in the beginning, I was putting people and planet as a priority, and still, you know, but I wasn't focusing that much on profit. I wasn't using the same strategies of corporates when it comes to marketing and sales, because that was not my field of interest. But now I realize that when you have a very strong business strategy and you add your impact values and your mission, your clients or consumers are going to be more loyal to you. Like, you create more value, and you also guarantee your sustainability. Because without money, your business is going to go bankrupt. So it is very important to not lose the focus on the profit, because it's very easy to say, I'm a social enterprise, so I am for people and planet. No. You also need to focus on the profit, because when you lose your revenue, you cannot.
It's combining the best of two worlds.
Exactly.
So, and when we talk about finance, business modeling, how much start capital did you need, and can you make financial living from a social enterprise?
Okay, true talks here on the table.
Sensitive?
No, not at all, because I'm very open about it. I struggled a lot. I came from a cancer treatment. I had no money left. As I said, I think in introduction, or we did it in introduction off camera, because I was a cancer patient. Banks didn't allow me to get a loan. Business angels didn't want to invest in me, because they were all saying, you're about to die within 5 years. And I was like, no, that's not on my agenda. So it was it was difficult to find financial capital to start. I guess when you didn't have cancer, it shouldn't be that hard to find it. I had an extra challenge there. What I did was I applied for a job, or I started working for a company that had similar impact goals than my idea. So I went to a job for 2 years. I used my first profit from that job when I took down all my daily expenses, life expenses, and I invested it in my coffee beans. So as I said before, if you want to become a social entrepreneur, you need to take a risk. You need to put your own financial capital on the table.
Not only your time you invest, but also every resources you have as a person. You have to invest.
Because if you don't believe in yourself, you're not willing to put your own savings on the table, why would the bank believe in you, or a business angel? True story. So that's also a threshold that you need to overcome. So I invested my own money, and I'm a big fan of lean startups. Lean means, you know what lean means.
Agile, efficiency, Scrum.
Exactly. And I started with €1,000. It became 2,000, then it became minus 6,000, because then I started my enterprise officially, and the government took a lot of money suddenly. So before you even start, you're bankrupt for a while. Luckily, you can stay in red numbers for some time. And I had a very lean approach. So I worked full-time for 2 years. Then I started working part-time for 1 year and part-time for my business. I wasn't getting enough money out of it. Then suddenly I had a big moment where a lot of revenue came, because we opened our first coffee shop and a lot of money came. So I thought, yes, I made it. After 6 weeks, the money went, and I had a lot of debts again. So for me, honestly, I was creative, and I was thinking, okay, how can I have a side job? Because I like to have different revenue streams, especially nowadays, I think the economic market is very sensitive to external change. So I could only recommend everybody to have a few other income streams. So I started giving keynotes, I started giving consultancy, and my old job that I used to have came back on my path, and I took it and I combined everything, because I started talking about social entrepreneurship, how we do it now. I started talking about healthcare, how we could improve it. So suddenly big health corporates started to pay me for what I was doing, and they were also investing in my concept, my social enterprise. So the money was coming, but what I'm very open about, I never had a loan. All the money that I made, and it was one keynote is between 1,000 to 5,000 euro, and I was giving 1 or 2 monthly, let's say. I invested it in my business. So instead of getting a loan, I lend it to myself, let's say. So everything what we have right now is paid. That's quite unique when you're an entrepreneur. Most of the times you make a business plan from 5 to 10 years, and you made some debts. Like they also say that it takes 8 years before you have a break-even operation. For me, my time was ticking. I think in the back of my head, my little voice was saying, you might really still have 5 years to live, so you gotta push it now, and you gotta make a legacy now. So I started making money personally, and I invested in my company, and slowly my company started growing. I started to have more revenue. I could rent staff. There was a scale up coming, and the coffee corners themselves became a break even. But then again, when you want to scale and you are an agile, lean company, there is no money anymore, because you constantly invest. And don't forget that social enterprises invest a lot of money in their social goals.
Yes.
For us, it means in
their
community, but also
training.
we pay a higher price for the products we use, because we use sustainable, circular products that are eco-friendly, which is a much higher price, and or the prices that we have in our coffee corner and with our coffee are very low, because we want to guarantee that the community can pay it, and that they're not being punished for the high price of our climate change issue right now, let's say. So to be honest, if you don't have a big buffer of 100 of 200,000 euro and you want to go big, you need to find different revenue streams. I am paying myself the minimum wage. I think every social entrepreneur does that. We struggle. You need to feel the suffer in order to grow. So I'm paying myself the minimum wage of a social worker, because there's baremas in Belgium, and all the rest I invest in sustaining my business. And we just had a rough year. COVID came, meaning that we didn't have any revenue for 1 year, not even my personal income. So luckily I had a buffer.
Yes.
And luckily I could continue.
So, and you are saying it's a rough year, but have you ever thought about giving up, or to quit, or not to quit?
Many times, weekly, because at some point I was making a lot of personal profit, and I was almost back on my career before I got cancer. And on the rough days, I was really thinking by myself, why am I doing this? Why shouldn't I just go back to my old job and just have a very high income and have an easy life and not have all the stress and all the challenges? But at the end of the day, money is not what makes me happy. I get my value from meaning something for our world, for myself. And the journey of being a social entrepreneur is more fulfilling than the numbers on my bank account. So I think all of us go through the same. We want to quit, and then the next morning we wake up and we say, let's change the world, because nobody is doing it. So
that was your intrinsic motivation at the start
it's
of
in
your magic
DNA.
moment.
Yes, it's in your DNA. It should. It's good that you mention it. It should be intrinsic. It's in your DNA. I can't shut it off. I try to do it. I can't.
Okay, so maybe a last question. So what makes you you call yourself a social entrepreneur and you talk about your DNA, but what do you think is the DNA of a good social entrepreneur?
You need to be impact driven, meaning you need to put the common good of a community above your personal one. And it's a bit weird that I say this, because I also preach that you need to have self-care, you need to be a bit more selfish, you need to think about yourself. But a social entrepreneur always has a purpose. And he or she will go beyond everything to make the purpose happen. And it's something, what I said, it's in your DNA, you can't shut it off. You have this big drive and fire within you that wants to help people. You see injustice, you see things that you can change, and you're willing to sacrifice your own life in order to make the life of the community better. Of course, when you have made a change on that community, you also make your life better, because you will get your validation of what you're doing is good. So I think a good social entrepreneur is somebody that really starts from the purpose within the soul that you have. And a good social entrepreneur should also be resilient. Maybe a tip for my fellow social entrepreneurs: dare to ask for help. A good social entrepreneur is not a solopreneur. That's something that I learned along the way.
Co-creator.
Yes. And there is many good social entrepreneurs out there. Many, actually. Yes.
Okay. So thank you, Stefanie, for the great conversation. You know, I'm a big fan of you. So
of the coffee.
And for the coffee, Ching. So thank you for being here. And last but not least, I hope you are inspired too. I hope Stefanie triggered you to unleash your social entrepreneur in yourself. Do you want to know more about social entrepreneurship? Check out our tutorial about the framework she will explain. So I think it's a must-see, but especially a must-do. So my only quote I would say is: get shit done, create impact. Good luck.